Hey, good morning. I am sitting in my car, which I've just washed because of all the ash on it. But I wanted to do a quick live because I had the chance to do it. And you'll be happy to know, I think I've figured out how to go back into horizontal. I'm doing a tour here this morning with a family. I'm really looking forward to meeting them because they have a 3-year-old with them. And I just think that's a nice thing. I like little people. So I'll do a different sort of tour, I expect, than I would if I'm with, a different crowd, of course. But I'm just over in Spring Creek area of Canmore here. So good morning, everyone. Hi, Diane. Nice to see you. I'm just wondering. Well, it's kind of cool, which is good news. It's 8 degrees outside, and so I've got my big car back. Hi, Robin. Nice to see you. So I will go outside. I'm just having some tea. It's funny. I didn't. Hi, Rosie. I didn't shave this morning because suddenly, I know it's a funny thing to talk about, but I've got all these dry patches on my skin. I've got a lot of sun, but I yesterday, I'm sure it was all the smoke I was in. You hear it in my throat a little bit. So, and so, yeah, it was just, I'm so allergic to smoke. Fisherman's friends. See, that's the best way to deal with the throat. So I'm over. So I'm just going to step out. Let me make sure. Oh, I do have car keys. So I'm over by the Malcolm Hotel. I didn't even think of putting my headphones on. Doesn't matter. But I'm in beautiful Canmore, Alberta here, everyone. This is all the kind of the new area, but I just wanted to show you the sky a little bit. So I'm looking up towards the grassy range. There is the Malcolm Hotel, of course, sticking with that Scottish theme, which is such a big deal here. They do have Highland games. In fact, I can show you an ad for them in Canmore. But starting soon is the Canmore Folk Festival. Well, thank you, Rosie. So yeah, I'll show you a couple of things and then we'll have a bit of a chat. It is obviously a very emotional time here for all of us. My friend Pam did a really lovely tour this morning out at Lake Louise. I only caught the first 15 minutes because I had to get into Canmore here. I'll just show you Mount Lady McDonald over there. And the building with the white roof is Elevation Place. That's Canmore's sort of climbing gym and pool and activity center. But as you can see, we have forests everywhere. And I do want to talk about what happened in Jasper, obviously. But I thought a good place to do it would be to show you this lovely heart right here. And you'll see August 31st, September 1st are the Canmore Highland Games. Biggest Highland Games out here in the West. Certainly the west of Canada, if not the west of North America. But you've got Little Policeman's Creek. We've just had 3 weeks of extremely hot weather for us. So say cool in the mornings, and there was a little bit of rain out towards Lake Louise, not here this morning, but you will see the creek down here is nice. It's full of water, which is good news. So we have been quite moist. We had about 50% snowpack this winter, but we had a rainy June, which we're thrilled about. There is some fireweed coming up. You're going to see all over Jasper in the next few weeks, of course. You're going to see a lot of that. But, having this nice, cool, clear water is lovely. There's one fire in the park just north of Lake Louise at the moment. But we, of course, have all of this old pine forest. Over 90% of our trees are pine trees. So I'll give you a little chat about what happened in Jasper. And again, this is my opinion, but I think it's backed up with a lot of science. So I didn't even think of putting in my headphones. In fact, I think I left them at home today. So the big difference is we are actually at a higher elevation down here. Now, I'm not in Banff, of course. I'm in Canmore and I'm surrounded by Kananaskis country. Banff is only 17 kilometers away, about 10 miles away. And the park gates are only 5 away from here. But Jasper's a lower elevation. Hi, Mary Lou. So Jasper's a lower elevation, and the pine beetle got into Jasper a lot earlier than it's gotten into the Banff, Kananaskis kind of area. Now, the mountain pine beetle is about the size of a grain of rice, and it is part of our ecosystem. Back in the 90s, there were nasty rumors saying that it came in from China and so forth. That's not true. It's always been part of the ecosystem, and it eats old, dry, very mature pine trees. Well, going right back to the 1870s and 1880s, we started putting out forest fires. And our forest management has almost been too good for its own sake. And the forests have gotten old and dense. There are more trees in North America today than there were 100 years ago. So that's an interesting thing, or Turtle Island as we like to call it. But in around Jasper, well, it was the late 90s, we had 4 winters that were warmer than normal. The pine beetles population expanded enormously. Now, people like David Suzuki, who some people have considered very radical in his environmental activism, he's in his late 90s now. He's a very good man, and he grew up in an internment camp because he was Japanese Canadian. He's predicted all of this, and he said by the 2020s we're going to be having out of control forest fires. You know, I was talking to one of my very dear friends yesterday and said, like, from our childhood, do we remember smoky summers? And we don't, you know. So the pine beetles population took off in areas around Prince George. I have done a couple of live virtual tours there. That's the middle of British Columbia, and that is the heart and soul, really, of the old lumber industry that you have in that part of the world. So he got into the whole area around Jasper. Look at this big stretch limo behind me here. He got into that area around Jasper and absolutely decimated the forest. So beautiful Pyramid Mountain, I've shown it in loads of photographs and videos. I don't have enough bandwidth to live stream there. That forest there was essentially dead. And then to the south, near the Athabasca Falls, which I've done some videos on, that's when you're driving north on Highway 93, that's where you get a little bit of phone reception back. Well, just around that area, there's 5 lakes and a walk. Once again, the forest was just decimated by pine beetle around there. So you have this crispy, dry forest that surrounded the whole Jasper area. Then suddenly, we have this heat wave that sat over Western Canada. They started to call it a heat dome again. It wasn't quite, because we still drop below 10 Celsius in the morning. But they had suddenly lightning storms. Well, those lightning storms hit all around Jasper, and it was like throwing matches at these crispy, dry, dead forests. That's what took off. Now, just a jurisdictional thing. The premier of our province is always trying to blame everything on the federal government, but both Jasper and Banff are Alberta municipalities within a national park. So there are jurisdictional issues, but it actually falls under the guise of the Alberta government. All that noted, they had a fire on the road that goes east out of Jasper towards Hinton, which is about an hour's drive, right? So Jasper's really isolated. And then to the south, and the wind started pushing up from 93, the Icefields Parkway. So nowhere near the Icefields, but an hour north of that. And it started pushing up. So it created a pinch. And so then they made this decision at 10:13 in the evening to evacuate town. And of course, some people criticize that, as they always do. Well, thank goodness they did it. People went west into British Columbia, and just beautiful flowers here to share with everyone. It's just gorgeous this morning. So they created this pinch, and they sent everyone west in a panic, you know. And the people at Valemont, which is about an hour and a quarter west, just after Mount Robson, what a fabulous community. The fellow with the RV parks just letting everyone stay for free and giving all food at cost. I mean, doing everything they possibly can. Look at that lovely view across from us here. So obviously some very, very good people who helped out, but they rushed everyone out, and they kept the fire crews in around the town. They called some people from Jasper back in who worked in food service. They asked them to come back very specifically to provide food to the emergency workers, and then the wind picked up so much that they evacuated the emergency workers. They were able to evacuate them east towards Hinton and on to Edmonton, obviously the provincial capital, but that's a 4-hour drive. And they were able to evacuate them, and they evacuated everyone, even firefighters who didn't have full oxygen equipment. That's why, as far as we know, there haven't been any deaths yet, which is just obviously fabulous news. But then, of course, the fire came in right up that south side. The way I drive into Jasper every time I drive up there, which is, of course, a dozen times a year, and you come in, and so there was the Mount Robson Lodge caught on fire. A friend sent me that image before it went public and asked me not to share it because it's obviously so devastating for everyone. And then that I said the Mount Robson, the Moline Lodge, Mount Robson next door, which is where I had stayed actually the last time I was up in Jasper, just about 6 weeks ago. And then, of course, the historic church where the Queen went to church in 2005 when she was here celebrating Alberta's centenary. So that is just a little sense of what happened up there. It seems that the fire went across the Jasper Park Lodge. The petro can exploded. Of course, it had fuel underneath, and that had the Bright Spot restaurant in it. But it seems like about a third of the town. But again, I am messaging with friends from the area, but I'm obviously not, well, nobody's allowed back in at the moment. So, it's all, but people have been told if their houses are lost. So that is the nature of it. Then we had this lightning storm yesterday morning out around Lake Louise, but that was caused principally because of all the ash that was in the air. This is the old headquarters of the Northwest Mounted Police. When they came here, that was really governance of this mining community back in the 1890s. And of course, whilst the Mounties have a very good reputation internationally to the Indigenous people, and there is a teepee, they are seen very much as a colonizing force because they were a colonizing force. They were rounding up the Indigenous people, and here was the land of the Stoney Nakoda, and pushed them off into the reserve. So, there's a lot to acknowledge about all this history and stewardship of the land, and that is very important. But it's nice to see a beautiful teepee there with the lodgepole pine that they would have traveled with historically. So often you see images of them being dragged behind a horse, and that was true, but of course people lived here thousands of years before horses came back to this continent. See there is the Folk Fest. So Canmore Folk Fest, if you don't get tickets way in advance, you're not going. It's super popular. Now we're going to start to get lots of people from Jasper moving down here. Everyone's welcome. I'm expecting some people to my home, maybe even as early as later today. There's people over on the Big Head over there. So as early as today, I am going to walk back towards the car because I do need to go around and meet these people that I'm taking out on a tour. Yeah, the teepees are wonderful, aren't they? I love at the Stampede when they have their powwow. And all the different nations live in the teepees and they interpret. So it's a nice day, except there is smoke in the air. Now, Mary Lou's in Calgary, I know, and I talked to a good buddy there yesterday, and he said that they just didn't leave the house yesterday because the city was quite toxic. My lungs are sore. There's the funny little things. I mean, I'm having a great summer in the sense that I'm home every day. I'm guiding locally, but I'm biking and climbing and doing swimming, all the things that I love to do. But when you get this kind of toxic air, and it's why forest fire smoke is so bad for us is the very fine particles. If you breathe deeply, they come in deeper into your lungs, right? And so, with the and I know when it's out there because I get this kind of raspy feel. These are all the wild roses down here, but the flowers are pretty much gone now. Alberta is wild rose country. Got some wild flax in there, and then a whole variety of beautiful places. But yes, so the city of Calgary, I saw that the mayor had to apologize because no one had made it there. They closed down the emergency response, and then they reopened it, needless to say. And Edmonton's been there. The premier of our province was in tears yesterday at a press conference, which was, of course, heartwarming for everyone. But then, unfortunately, she started going on with jurisdictional blame, which is just so tiring. It is one of the very, very frustrating things of this country. I'm not a patriot, but I have nice little ducks here. But I'm a proud Canadian when Canada works. But when politicians just continuously place blame on other jurisdictions, doesn't make it a very effective country. And when we're in times of real emergency like this, that is very important. It's very important that we work together and unite around these emergencies and not have, arguments about who's meant to do what. On the upside, many people have been asking me what they can do to support the people of Jasper and the Rockies here. I've had messages all the way from people in France. Of course, I have, a broad world. I'm a lucky person that way. And this has made the news internationally. And it's needed to. I mean, we're living climate change here. Jasper National Park is, Banff, of course, is the flagship of not just the Canadian Park Service, but it's the oldest park service in the world and one of the oldest national parks. Sorry, I was just looking down. I think there was a robin, but I wasn't sure if it wasn't actually a little pine beetle or pine martin in there. But the fact that Jasper has caught on fire like that so quickly and so in such an extreme fashion maybe is a little wake-up call for all of us. Well, Mary Lou, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of our Prime Minister, but the vitriol towards him, given that just about every province is run by opposition parties is the part that I just don't understand. I think it's very unhealthy. The federal government was there immediately. So it's, I've never voted for the party that, of course we have a parliamentary system, so I've never voted for the party that Trudeau's a member of, but these people who wave flags, and our leader of the opposition federally, who wants to get rid of the carbon tax, is the reason we have one is because we have to acknowledge that we're living in amongst a changing climate. So that is the reality. This is, again, there's lots of water down here, which we're lucky. I can hear a big train going by and lovely light just down in the distance here. So that's just a quick catch up as what's happened. In terms of doing a fundraising or anything specific for Jasper, we're just going to wait and see. These jurisdictions have a lot of money, so it's more a case of what we can do for the people of Jasper. They're saying it is going to be weeks, like the town may be closed. I mean, it's going to be closed at least for some significant period. Obviously, at some point, they're going to let locals back in so they can collect whatever belongings they have. But they have to check out. It seems that they saved the hospital, because when I saw the images of the fire behind the church that burned, that's sort of where the hospital is. You can certainly, I might repost a couple of the virtual tours I've done in beautiful Jasper. I mean, it's obviously incredibly emotional. And then being a little, talking with my neighbor yesterday, I live up on the side of the mountain in Banff with great big 350-year-old trees behind my house. We just wait for that next strike. But what we don't have is all that dead forest. See the forest I'm showing you around here? Lovely, healthy spruce trees up here. So much of Jasper's forest was just brittle and crispy dry. So anyway, listen, I have to go and do a tour for the next 6 hours. And then tonight, I'm doing a walking tour in Banff with 10 people, starting at about 7 p.m. So I'm looking forward to this day. And so I just want to thank everyone for your friendship and support. And feel free to share this if it's any use to you. But just a quick catch up. Lots of love. Take care. And think of our friends up north in Jasper there, who a lot of them will end up here in the next couple of days. So mountain people unite. Bye-bye.